Please be seated. Jim Kingstone and I began talking a number of months ago, about the possibility of his being our Joyful Giving speaker this year. As I already noted, Jim comes to us all the way today from Vancouver Island. However, Jim does have a long-standing connection to this community of St. George's through his parents, Peggy and Stuart Kingstone. And as a family, they have been incredibly faithful and thoughtful and generous about making sure that that legacy of support and connection continues across the generations. They have also, as a family, been instrumental in making it possible for us to once again have curates in our church. And we're so grateful to Jim for arranging his travel plans to be here with us at the launch of Joyful Giving. Jim, welcome and thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. I want to begin by acknowledging that, I'm here on the traditional unceded ancestral territories of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe First Nations, and I composed these remarks in two locations: my home in the unceded traditional territories of the Comox First Nations, and in my place of work on the unceded ancestral territories of the Songhees and Esquimalt and Usanich First Peoples. I'm grateful for the gift of their knowledge, for their ways of being, and for their lands, and I offer these words today with respect. I'm delighted to be with you, and thank Martha for this kind invitation. It's not easy, as most of you know, to fly across the country, but it's getting easier, and today is a special privilege indeed for me. In fact, part of my sharing, with your indulgence, will focus on privilege. To give a thumbnail biographical update, I left St. Catharines in the summer of 1985. I've returned regularly to see friends and family, to be sure, but I've lived elsewhere, usually far away, teaching in places like Japan and Nova Scotia, Southern California, and for the last 20 years, Vancouver Island. I started my teaching career on April 1st, 1980. And early in the pandemic, in fact, April of 2020, as I thought my career was beginning to evaporate, I thought it was time to leave teaching. It was the right decision, although evaporation is still the word I use to describe the end of my career, but it's really a testament to the privileged immunity I enjoyed when others, facing dramatically mounting personal and professional pressures, surely did not. So I'm here today absolutely because of my privileged position. I'm also here because of and for my parents, Peggy and Stuart, longtime devoted members of the parish whose friendships in and commitment to the community I'm here to honor today. Dad has passed, as many of you know, but I feel him here in spirit. And Mom is thriving, still thriving, astonishingly, in an assisted living facility in Toronto, not far from my brother and sister John and Elizabeth. I'm also here particularly because of my sister Elizabeth. She couldn't make the trip. For this weekend, we each had a choice, and I call it the choice of towns. One town in a high plateau in East Africa to talk to women about textiles, and another town, this one here in southern Ontario. She's there and I'm here. I'm called the lucky one. My experience is a bit less exotic. And I'm told if you tune in to Instagram, her exotic adventure in Tanzania is available. But let me be honest, if a bit crass, I'm also here because of the CRA. Some of you may know that these letters stand for Canada Revenue Agency, rather than, as I once did, cash right away. The logic or the mundane math side of charitable giving, especially for certain people, mother included, is helpfully managed by the CRA. And if I were an accountant, I would give you some of the details, but since I'm not and the details are confusing anyway, I won't. In short, my sister and I are in a position to take instruction from a team of specialists, long-time devoted specialists, who've served Mom for a long time, more than 20 years, and we trust them implicitly, and for some reason they trust us to receive their wisdom and guidance. So we get a figure from the specialists each year, and then she and I arm wrestle to try to get the details right. And it helps to work with specialists when it comes to math, I've always found. But here's what's important about my being here, and I hope this is the message that you take away. And it concerns the complexity of urban ministry. And urban ministry here in St. Catharines has a particular complexity that requires many hands and much careful and strategic thinking and deft and tactical commitment. The community has a variety of programs under exemplary leadership and resourced by generous and thoughtful individuals. And in large part today, lest I come across as an expert, which I'm not, I want in particular to commend the variety and vigor and volume of these efforts. Many programs, including STEP and the Breakfast Program, help sustain a vigorous urban ministry and urban ministry capacity at a time when increasing numbers are having great difficulty. I perhaps don't have to rehearse the details of the Breakfast Program's impressive achievement, but I think a few items are certainly worth recalling to mind. Daily breakfast service for more than 25 years, with numbers daily mostly surpassing 100 patrons. A lonely, restless night, waking with the certainty that a delicious meal will be available at first light, prepared by loving hands, including a warm smile and hot, sugary coffee. It's a special program, and one to which Peggy, my mother, is especially devoted. She continues to ask me regularly, are we still giving to the breakfast program? And of course we are, Mom. But giving is enduringly and really indispensably for us, for most of us, I think, about people, about special people known and unknown to us whose commitments are inspiring to my family and me. Not every community can boast a John Bullivant or George Hostick in their midst. Two devoted servants whose recent passing the community mourns and whose exemplary efforts joyfully undertaken. It's my great pleasure today to pay tribute to. Living some distance from town, as we do now, we're not in daily touch the way we once were, and Elizabeth and Mom and I rejoice in our capacity to make a contribution because of these powerful contributors and others too numerous to name. I feel that John and George have always been a part of my life and recall them as a boy with great fondness. Gosh, my parents and my grandparents knew them. My grandparents, Don and Doris Smith. And this knowledge lies in the heart of and forms really the relational and I think generational glue that makes giving all the more real and rewarding. The math of giving is a marriage between people and method. St. George's certainly has the people, since it's blessed with loving and generous souls, but forms of long-term stewardship of the kind that enables a community like this one to look back over more than 230 years. I had to look that figure up because it's so astonishing, really. 230 years of a rich and compelling history, but long-term stewardship can be a bit elusive. To honor the kind of legacy of tireless service provided by John and George and countless others over the years requires both passion and prudence. And for a variety of reasons, we must think of a dramatically enlarged horizon, not only in line with the community's rich history and tradition, but also because of threats posed by things like climate change. And so when it comes to thinking about long into the future, about resourcing not just a few tomorrows, but generations of sustainable tomorrows, I rely on my Indigenous friends and colleagues to give me that sense of deep, millennial, loving care of each other and of those whose needs and interests and aspirations we wish our efforts to nourish and sustain. The Nuu-chah-nulth-speaking people where I live use the expression Heshuk Tawak, an expression that means we are all connected, we are all one. Our future depends for its integrity on our faith in sustaining this oneness. The Anishinaabe have the expression of the good life, Mino Minadazawin. Both these expressions from West and East bring together the idea of the resourcefulness of our humanity, our spiritual, emotional, and to be sure, our economic resources. It's a good time to feel the special and privileged energy of this community, to feel a part and connected to this community. And I take the torch that George and John are passing to us and move with confidence together into the future. The Abenaki people say, Ulinana Walmazi, take good care of yourselves. Thank you.